Good morning, Jesus Center. We're praying this vitamin boost brings timely encouragement into your life today and enlightens and empowers you to be the amazing person God made you to be. We love you.
So this longing that we have for God is a gift. It's not something that's manufactured. When it comes to a gift, we don't take credit for a gift. We take care of a gift, but we didn't create it. Therefore, we don't take credit for a gift. So this longing that we have for God should never be something that we brag about, but it should be something that we just humbly recognize is something that God put in us. So this is why we have a longing, because longing rhymes with calling. And the reason why we are longing is because God is calling us to himself. That's why we feel the longing, because he's calling. Our longing is the evidence of his calling. In the Song of Songs, it's a book in the Old Testament or the Hebrew scriptures. It's a love song that the Jews understood to be a metaphor about our relationship with God, our love relationship with God. And God was the ultimate pursuer in that storyline, and we are the passionate responders. And in Song of Songs chapter 1, verse 4, this is in the Passion Translation, it says, "Draw me into your heart, and we will run together into the king's cloud-filled chambers." So here the bride is saying, draw me, because if you draw me, we're going to run into your chamber. And you know, for us who are really pressing in to know God, it's because God has been drawing our hearts to himself. You know, and even in this moment, I believe that God is drawing us to himself. You know, when my daughter, when she was in preschool, there was this boy that liked her named Calvin. And you know, they ended school at the same time. They were part-time students. So they would get out at the same time and we'd be walking to our cars. And as we were walking to our cars, Calvin would come up to Eden and just hit her in the back and say, "Tag." And sometimes she would just be unresponsive. So he would come back and be, "Tag." That's how they flirt, you know, in preschool. And he did it so dramatically. He would wind up and go, "Tag." And then Eden would have to chase him. And she was never as fast as he was. I think he was like 8 months older or something. And he's a boy, but she would run and run and run, chase him all around the school. So we would be there like for 15 minutes as they're just running around. But the reason why Eden was now chasing after him was because he tagged her. And so in Song of Songs, chapter 1, verse 4, it reminds us that God's the one who tagged us first. And that's why if we're chasing God, we're chasing God. And I believe that God tagged us into our spirit. You know, that tag of God, if you will, is etched into our soul. And then we go through life and there are these events, there are these experiences. They may be dramatic or they may be subtle, but it also serves as another way of God tagging us through these experiences or these happenstances of life. And yet, you know, the reason why we have a heart for God is because our hearts have been, you know, touched by God. And St. Augustine, he has this beautiful quote. He says, "You can only seek God because God already found you." That's the reason why Eden is chasing after him, because, again, Calvin already tagged her or found her. So the reason why we're pursuing God is because he has already pursued us. And, you know, what we find in the Song of Songs is that when the bridegroom king, who's the male figure, the pursuer in that storyline, and then the bride, when they're both on for each other, that's when they experience intimacy, when they're both desirous for each other. So full intimacy happens when both parties are on. And so here's what's going on. God is always on, but we're not always on. God is always on, but we're not always on. So our desire for God is oftentimes asleep. I'm saying sleep as in a metaphor, where not non-existent, because if you're sleeping, you're still existent. You're real. But when we're sleeping, we're unaware and we're unresponsive, and we need to be awakened. You know, so when it comes to our desire for God, it's not that it's not there, because I believe in every human being In their spirit, there is a longing for God, but oftentimes we are sleeping and we need to be awakened. You can go through church, for 15 years and still not have had your heart awakened. But then when your heart is awakened, it changes everything.
Thanks for listening to today's Vitamin Boost. Have a love-filled day, and we hope to connect here again tomorrow.